So, today we are going to talk about Lord Ramacandra. Since Tuesday is Ram Navami, the appearance day of Lord Ramacandra. There is a very beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, chapter 11, text number 23. It says, Purusho Ramacharitam Shravane Upadharayan Anashamsya Parorajan Karma Bante Vimuchyate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O King Parikshit, anyone who orally receives the narrations concerning the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes will ultimately be freed from the disease of envy and thus be liberated from the bondage of fruitive activities. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned many times in his purport, especially in the Bhagavad Gita, that most people in this material world are envious. Do you agree? Yes. We find that even on the spiritual path. So Prabhupada says it's because of envy that we are in this material world. Do you agree? Because we were envious of the Supreme Lord, that is why we are here in this material world. So envy is the cause of our suffering. But the verse that we just heard clearly states that if we hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, then we'll become freed from envy. How many of us want to be free from envy? Raise your hands higher. That means we agree we are? Yes. And here is a solution how we can become free from envy. There is a beautiful verse in the Brahma Samhita, text number 29, 5.39. Rama Dimurti Shokala Niyamena Tishtan Nanavataram Aparo Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samavad Brahma Pumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. So Lord Brahma is praying and he's saying, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna, and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. So, the scriptures clearly explain to us that there are many incarnations of Lord Krishna. And as the verse says, Ramadi, that means not only Lord Ramachandra, but other incarnations also. And what are they compared to? Waves in the river. Can we count the waves in the river? You say, oh, 1, 2, or 3, and by the time, there are so many more waves coming. Similarly, it's not possible to count the different incarnations of the Lord. Now, how many of you have heard about Ramayana? Let me put it this way. How many of you have not heard about Ramayana? You all have heard about Ramayana. Srila Prabhupada, I was reading a transcription of his lecture on Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and also the letters that he wrote to his disciples about Ram Navami. And Srila Prabhupada says, Ramayana is part of history. Vedic scriptures are also part of history. So it's not imagination, it is not, what is that word used? Yes, it's not mythology. It is real. It's there in the history. Srila Prabhupada says 2 million years ago, Krishna appeared as Lord Ramachandra in Treta Yuga. So it is part of history. So we've heard about Ramayana. Who wrote the Ramayana? Who was Valmiki? He was a saint? Daku. He was a dacoit. He used to stop people on the road and he would take away all their belongings, their jewelry and money and everything. He was a dacoit. And sometimes he would even kill them to steal from them. And it so happened that one day he happened to meet Narad Muni. And Narad Muni said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm doing my job. That's my 9 to 5 job. Like we go for a job, right? That's my job. But do you know it's very sinful to steal and also to kill people? Who is going to face the reactions, sinful reactions of your activities? Is your family going to?" He said, "I'm sure." Narad Muni said, "Go find out." And when he went to his family, the family said, "You're just doing your job. You're supposed to feed us. Why should we take sinful reactions of your sinful activities?" And then, like they say, batti jal gayi, the bulb kind of lit, or the tube light. He said, "Oh, all that sinful reactions will be borne by me?" He asked Narad Muni for guidance, and Narad Muni immediately became his spiritual master, his teacher, and guided him on the path of bhakti yoga. And he was asked to chant the names of Lord Ram. What did Narad Muni say? Say Rama, Rama, Rama. He said, "I cannot say that. It's very hard for me to chant because all my life I have been Mara, Mara. I have been killing, Mara, Mara. But Mara, Mara also becomes Rama, Rama." This is how he purified himself. We are all so very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us such a simple process. All we have to do is just chant and be happy. What do we chant? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Excuse me, what do we chant? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. We should not follow blindly just because I said Om Namo Bhagavate. No, we don't do that. We must be very firm. We should know what does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommend in Kali Yuga. Chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Srila Prabhupada explains in his lecture on Ram Navami that Lord Ramacandra, he appeared almost 2 million years ago in Treta Yuga in a place called Ayodhya. How many of you have seen Ayodhya? I know. That's on my bucket list. Go to Ayodhya, the birthplace of Lord Ramacandra. Right? It's in the northern part of India, and he appeared on the 9th day of the moon. His father was Dasharath, who had 3 wives, Kaushalya, Sumitra, and Kekai. And Kekai had received 2 benedictions. How many of you know all this, the whole pastime? Most know it. Some don't know, so we can. There's no harm in hearing. What did we hear in the verse when we recited? When we hear Krishna Katha, we become free from anxiety. Not anxiety. Envy. We become free from envy. So hearing the pastimes is very, very beneficial. So his Dasharath's one of his wives, Kekai, had received 2 benedictions from the king for saving his life one time in a war. And just one day before Lord Ramacandra was being coronated, she wanted those 2 benedictions. What were they? That instead of the oldest son, which is Lord Ramacandra, being coronated, it should be her son, who was Not only that, what was the second benediction? I want Ram to go to the forest for 14 years. So when this was, and of course Dasharath had to agree because he could not break his promise, he had to keep his promise. But the son, Lord Ramacandra, can you see? An ideal son. Immediately he wanted to fulfill the promise of his father. Nowadays, if you ask the children to do something, what's the first thing they do?
Why? Why?
Huh?
Why?
Why should I do it? Exactly. Why? Give me some solid reasons. Not just reasons, solid reasons. And give me 4-5 reasons. And then I will think about it. Right? Lord Ramacandra didn't say, oh, why should I go? I'm the oldest son. It's your problem. You give the benediction. I didn't give the benediction. No. Immediately he agreed to go to the forest. And as he decided to go to the forest, his wife Sita, she also wanted to go. Now she was the daughter of a king, King Jana. She had lived in luxury, opulence. She was a princess before she got married to Lord Ramacandra. So she did not tell her husband, well, you go, have a good time. I'll go to my father's house and I'll enjoy my life there for 14 years. Text me when you come back. And I'll come back to the kingdom. She didn't say that. In happiness or distress, husband and wife stayed together. And so she wanted to lead an austere life with her husband in the forest for not just 4 days, 4 hours, 4 months, 14 years. That's austerity. And for us to observe Ekadashi twice a month is austerity. We have to do a lot of planning. We have to make a menu of feast. All the things that we can eat on Ekadashi. I won't talk about prasadam because then the mind will go towards prasadam. But we cannot tolerate fasting even one day. In fact, Srila Prabhupada in his lecture says that on Ram Navami, appearance day of Lord Ramacandra, it should be celebrated like Gaura Purnima. He wrote a letter to Mukunda Goswami. He even wrote a letter to Mahapurusha Prabhu, his disciple, that it should be celebrated like Gaura Purnima. And he said one should fast from morning till evening sunset. Till sunset. Then Prabhupada says, if possible, fast without water. How many are volunteers for that? Not me, of course. Without water. He said, if you cannot, I know, it's hard. Prabhupada said, if cannot, then just drink water. If not, then just eat fruits. But the main focus should be on chanting and reading. Reading Srila Prabhupada's books. That is the purpose of performing austerity on Tuesday, which is Ram Navami day. So Lord Ramacandra, he set an example of an ideal son who immediately took his father's promise to be his own. And he immediately left with his brother and his wife to go to the forest. He did not hesitate to renounce the kingdom, those, beautiful outfits and jewelry and elaborate, food, prasadam that was there in the... No, he did not think about all that at all. When we have to go out of town, what do? Make a checklist, right? And then some of us pack our bags a week in advance. How many of you pack at the last minute? I do. I know, last minute. And then after reaching, you say, oh, I forgot this and I forgot that. He did not make a checklist. Oh, what will I need? Maybe I should take some cash with me. I may need it in the forest. Or let me, store some fruits with me and take with me and last me for a few days. No! Immediately he renounced everything. All his focus was only to follow the instructions of his father. That is an ideal son. He left his kingdom, he left his friends, he left all the opulences, everything. Prabhupada says it's like, just like a liberated soul gives up life. Like that, he just renounced everything. And we have a hard time renouncing even a pair of clothes. Right? You're so attached to it. So beautiful. How to give it up. So attached. But no. Now Lord Ramacandra, he was loved by his citizens and they were anxiously waiting for him to be coronated. They loved him so much. He was an ideal king also. Of course, he was coronated even afterwards when he was. But instead he gave up the throne and he went to the forest. And Sita did not hesitate. She didn't have to wait for her husband to tell her. Even before he could, she was ready to go to the forest. That is an ideal wife. Now let's take the scenario of Kali Yuga. I remember hearing one story. There was this husband who was quite ill. He had some disease. So the wife took him to the doctor, and the doctor examined him, first talked to the husband, separately, and talked to him, examined him, everything. And then he asked the husband, "You please go and wait in the reception area. I want to talk to your wife." So now the wife was worried. What is it? What has doctor diagnosed? So the doctor told the wife that your husband can be cured. Oh, she was so happy. Oh, that's wonderful. What is it that is needed to make him, to cure him? And he said, it's very simple. If you can follow certain things in the house, he will be cured. Definitely. And what are those things? She took a pen and paper and she started writing. He said, you cannot get angry at him. You cannot make him do any chores in the house. Before he could continue, she said, oh yeah, I got it. And she went out, and now the husband was nervous. What did the doctor say? So he asked her, what did he say? And she said, honey, you are going to die. It is not possible that I cannot shout at you. It is not possible that you will not help me with the chores. This is Kali Yuga. But Sita, instantly she was ready to take on the austerities of living in the forest. How many of us have been to a forest? It's a scary place, right? Animals, no food, worst of all, no Wi-Fi. Can you believe no signal? I mean, especially for children nowadays, even adults, if there's no Wi-Fi for a few seconds, it feels like 12 years. There has been no Wi-Fi for 10 seconds. There are tears coming down like torrents of rain. Where is Wi-Fi? It's my life and soul. But in Treta Yuga, that was not the case. It is said, Lord Ramacandra was such an ideal king that he would sit in the audience, open ground, in the audience. Anyone could come up to him with any kind of complaint. And if we opened up a complaint session, what will happen?
Nobody will listen, not anything.
Nobody will listen.
Everybody will have their own.
But no one had any complaints because everyone was happy in Ram Rajya. They had everything, they were happy. It is said that there was no fear, no distress, no lamentation, no desire, nothing at all, even no death. That means in that age, people decided when to die. And Srila Prabhupada said, if I am given the opportunity, I can bring Ram Rajya back even in Kali Yuga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Lord Ramacandra was an ideal son, ideal brother, ideal husband, ideal king. And that was the reason he came down. Krishna incarnated as Lord Ramacandra to teach us, give us an ideal example even for a good government. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned so many times Lord Ramacandra in his lectures, also about Ramarajya. He actually appeared to educate the people in general, where everyone could be living happily. So it is said, Prabhupada says, that during the time of Lord Ramachandra's reign, there was no bodily suffering, no mental suffering, no distress, no fatigue, no disease, no fear, no lamentation. How many of us would like to live in Ramarajya? Wouldn't that be wonderful? But we can make it in our homes. Is that possible? Yes. If we have strong sadhana in the house, if we make our home a temple where chanting of the holy names of the Lord happen, where there is reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we are following the regulative principles, where we are associating with devotees, where we are giving this knowledge to others, where we are doing some service, then we live in a very peaceful environment. So Lord Ramacandra was a saintly king, and with his behavior, he set a very good example for us. And it is said, Prabhupada says, that he took care of his citizens like his children. Can any of us call the president Papa? Can any of us do that? What is there in the state? What? A governor or what? What? I don't know. I don't know anything about politics. What's there? Governor? Can we call him Papa? This is Kali Yuga. But during the reign of Lord Ramacandra, everybody was happy. Everyone used to speak about him with reverence, about his nobility, about his integrity, about his virtues. So just by hearing about Lord Ramacandra, we can become free from envy. So now it's up to us to turn our hearts and see, is there envy in my heart? If there is, then what is the solution? Hear the pastimes of the Lord. Of course, chant also. Chanting is the main thing. Prabhupada says 99% of our progress in spiritual life is based on chanting. But not just chanting, attentive chanting. It's not that we are chanting and we are doing other things at the same time, like reading. You know, when the finger is out of the bead bag, like this, what is this finger out for? To surf the net, right? Yes or no? Right? With you do Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. No. When we are chanting, we are only chanting. We are not hearing a lecture, we are not reading, we are not surfing, we are not driving, we are not doing anything. Why? Because there is no difference between the holy name and the Supreme Lord Himself. When we are chanting, we are calling out to the Lord to help us. So so that we can do some service for him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, hearing is the most powerful sense. Just by hearing, we can purify ourselves. Hare Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalo Naste Naste Naste. There is no other way except chanting, chanting, chanting. So when we are, we should consider that when we are chanting, we should think it's a tragedy that we are chanting, but we are not attentive. It's a tragedy. Where is the absorption? Very, very important to be absorbed in what we are doing. Right? So we are very, very fortunate. Tuesday is Ram Navami, appearance day of Lord Ramacandra. And another opportunity for us to chant more. Srila Prabhupada in his lecture on Ram Navami says that on this day at least, we should try to chant throughout the day. Chant as much as we can, but attentively. Read about Lord Ramacandra, hear about Lord Ramacandra. Read Srila Prabhupada's books, associate with devotees. And make sure when we associate with devotees, we do not talk about what's the stock market or what's happening in the White House. We talk about Lord Ramacandra, about his pastimes. Of course, on Tuesday we'll hear a lot of pastimes of Lord Ramacandra. I kept it for Tuesday, that is the Ram Navami day. But today we are trying to understand why did Krishna incarnate as Lord Ramacandra? Does anyone remember why? Yes, to teach us, to set an ideal example. An ideal son, ideal husband, ideal king, ideal brother. This is what he came. To teach us, to set an ideal example. He came in the human form. So when we have everything, Srila Prabhupada has given us a house in which the whole world can live. He's given us Maha Mantra, he's given us festivals, his books, temples, devotees. I'm forgetting one thing, and what is that? Prashadam. See, that means